New Age India. It's a series of panel discussions that we've been running at the India Engagement Center at the World Economic Forum in Davos. I welcome you all on behalf of Edge Entrepreneurs, the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industries, and of course, Invest India. Thank you so much for giving us the space to host a series of very insightful conversations on everything from what it means to be a global Indian, around entrepreneurship, sustainability, and where this decade leads for us as Indians. I would request people at the back to please keep it down a little bit if possible, so we can hear our panelists as we go around speaking to them. And yes, if you do not get a place at the back, we have a few seats up front waiting for you. So first up with us, we have Pawan Sukhdev. The way that we're going to structure the panel today is that we'll have a couple of opening remarks from everyone for a couple of minutes and get to know a little bit about them, and I come back to them with questions. But Pawan here, I have a very particular question for you. You have not only won the Tyler Prize, which claims to be the Nobel Prize of the environment, but you've won two other prizes also, which claim to be the Nobel Prize for the environment. How does it feel like being on the receiving end of that, and also your choice of color for the jacket and the tie that you've chosen here, being from the space of
As someone in the sustainability space, this comes naturally to me. I don't have to think about it. It's there in my cupboard and I wear it. But yeah, the prizes is a funny story. So I'm sorry, with advance apologies to anyone from the United States or Sweden or Japan, because there are three claimants for the so-called Nobel Prize for the environment, but actually there isn't a formal Nobel Prize for the environment. The Tyler Prize being American, they loudly announce it as one does. Right? So, as this is the Nobel for the environment. The Japanese who give you the Blue Planet Prize will quietly mention it to you privately in a large gathering, with great respect, saying that, you might think that this could be the Nobel Prize for the environment. You might, not this. No, it's half. Yeah. So there's a difference. Yeah, that's right. So, and of course, the Swedes will say, oh, well, this was the first, it's been around for a long time, the Gothenburg Award. And of course, there are other claimants, they will tell you knowledgeably about the Nobel Prize, but honestly, this is quite the same.
The only undisputed fact is that you've won all three of them, so they can fight.
Yeah, so the controversy doesn't affect me. They can make up their minds. Anyway, but what were these for? So my work, I'm not the only physicist on this panel, so you'll have to tell them your story. But there are two physicists out here, both of whom have moved away from physics. I did astro and then switched for whatever reason. I guess pursuit of wealth was the obvious one as a young man, to finance and did banking and did my qualification and all that. And one of the things I couldn't understand in finance and the economics paper that I had to do for this is, what is this thing about externalities? Why do these guys have externalities? If it's in physics, if it's very big, it's astrophysics. If it's tiny, it's atomic. If it's smaller, it's nuclear, even tinier particle physics, quarks, gluons, and all. And so what's the need for externalities? And I kind of worried about it, but I got on with the business of doing markets and banking and so on. And it was only when my first daughter was born, Mahima, and she had this love for nature, and suddenly this whole externalities thing came back to my head. Because I was taking her out to, Borivali National Park and Kamala Nehru National Park in Bombay and so on, and entertaining her with zero cost. Right? And I was thinking, wow, the value is huge. The cost is zero. Fancy that. And of course, the flip side, the loss of India's forests bothered me because there was huge value being destroyed in the process of destroying forests and their beautiful functions of maintaining ecosystems and nutrients and fresh water for the fields of farmers and for us. And so there was this disconnect in my head, and I'm a markets person. I'm not even able to understand, why don't these guys value these assets? Well, the answer came to me quite quickly when I started reading David Pearce and Partha Dasgupta and other economists. It's basically because these are public goods, and markets only price private goods. They don't price public goods. And therefore, unless you attach value to these assets, which are so valuable to society, you will, of course, destroy them. Professor Edward Barbier, another one of my gurus, used to say that we use nature because she's valuable. We lose nature because she's free. And this became the sort of mantra in my head. And then I set up a green accounting project for Indian states together with two friends of mine. One is Sanjeev Sanyal, who, by the way, say hi to him if he's watching, but he's one of the senior advisors to the finance ministry, and he's also in Prime Minister Modi's group. And the other one sadly passed away, Professor Rajiv Sinha. He was an econometrician and a very bright man. So we together, a band of three, and then all pulled together by an ex-Reserve Bank of India officer, Yesut Hasan, who's also passed away sadly. So it was the Three Musketeers and D'Artagnan who decided to do the world's first state-level green accounting project. 3 Indians, right? And we got acknowledged for this. The United Nations wrote to us, and I got a position at the UN to run a big study called the Economics of Ecosystems and Biodiversity, which was basically our project multiplied by global scale. And then that study went sort of, in those days, there wasn't viral. They're talking about 2008. Viral wasn't a thing in 2008. But
other than the fever.
Yeah, other than the fever, exactly, yeah. So, but it kind of got very popular, and then we started getting requests by companies to, can we measure our externalities, and what about this positive value of our training and education? So we said, yes, all of that is possible. I had to set up a company, which I still run today. Just Impact, yeah. So we calculate externalities, positive and negative, of companies. And we have now, because most of the people I was hiring were from the Indian Institutes of Technology, at some point I said, this is silly. I mean, we got 3, 4, 5 happy clients a year, and we are happy with them, and they love us, and great. But the point is, at this rate, I'll have to be 1 million years old to change the economy. So I better do something. And then I said, hang on, everyone here, apart from me, because I went into banking, is from IITs. Why can't we automate this whole stuff? And then we crashed our heads. Yeah, actually. So we started automating the entire process. So things which took 5 months to do, we were able to do in 5 minutes or 5 seconds. And that's where we are today. So we now actually run algorithms together with a cognitive search engine, which we have constructed. And basically all of that is sold. The data that comes out of that is impact intelligence. And that we sell to investors like UBS, the Swiss bank, or NBIM, the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Norway, and so on. So that's basically what we do.
I thank you for setting the tone of this 5:15 p.m. panel on the right note. So that I could see it in everyone's eyes. Everyone was just glued in onto that conversation. Thank you very much for doing that. And I'll come back to you for a couple of storytelling tips, because the way you did that, I see a lot to learn on that, not just from the environmental side of things and your dressing, but also on how to keep all the attention on you, all the spotlight on you.
And I'm going to request you for 2 more minutes later on. There are 2 other Indians who I consider
that. Fantastic beginning to the panel discussion. Thank you, Pawan Sukhdev, for setting the tone. Next up, we come to Ms. Asha